Ladies and gentlemen and ladies, cats, dogs, children of all ages and everything in between. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You know who it is? It is the kid, Unc Just, the pizza freak, resonating at that pizza frequency. What is that pizza frequency? Well, I am glad that you asked. It means that I love talking about pizza. I love making pizza, but mostly I love sharing pizza with people that I give a ship about. Yes, literally breaking bread with people that I care about. And I have a sneaking suspicion that you too, my friends, also resonate at said pizza frequency, or why else would you be here? And where is here? Dun, 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 dun. This is Free Office Hours with Noel Brohner, Slow Rise Pizza, and me, Justin, Uncle Justin. Okay, guys, you know the dealio, office hours. Spent a lot of time on Zoom with Noel over the past couple of years. And this is our way of giving back to the community. If you have questions regarding pizza, because we are passionate pizza people and we want to make sure that the pizza community is on a very fertile footing. You know, we say it's all about that found day dough, whether it be people or pizza. If you don't have a solid foundation, how can you build upon it? So what we're doing is these are the weekly office hours, and office hours are bi-monthly, and then in between, in the off weeks, right now we are currently in the science of sourdough. I will be putting a link. Hey, well, hey, what's going on? Wow, really just jumping on. Boy, you're not enjoying my intro today, huh? Huh? Well, guys, here he is, ladies and germs, Mr. Slow Rise himself. Yeah, how you doing? What's going on next week? Science of sourdough, huh? Stephanie Swane. Okay, all right, here we go. Stephanie Swane will be with us next week. Same bat channel, same bat time. Stephanie is of Modernist Pizza, who is she is a walking encyclopedia of pizza knowledge. She knows everything and everyone, and has the info and the knowledge and she's done all the studying to back it up. So that will be really fantastic to have Stephanie hanging out with us again. So without any further to do, I'm going to bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Noel Brohner. You might have already seen. Noel, are you there? What's going on here? We having some technical diffs, huh? Wait, why? I got to spotlight you. Here we go. There we go. No, you're calling it already?
Justin, that was a misfire.
Dude, that's what's so great about the live Zoom. You know, you just never know what's going to go wrong. Really?
So now I'm gonna have to out myself. This is gonna be very embarrassing. So every week when we do these, I adopt an alias, and I'm also an attendee, so I can watch us as an attendee, right? Mm-hmm. And so this week, I did what I always do, but I was logged in on my phone as me. Mm-hmm. So I jumped on as a host, really.
There you go. Well, these things happen. How are you doing? How was your week? Talk to me a little bit about last week. What did we do? Science of Sourdough Part 2. That was pretty awesome.
Justin, let's not do Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. You're already confusing
me.
Let's just call it Science of Sourdough. That's it.
But what was it? It was we had a funky name for it.
It was the third week.
No, it was the second week.
Okay, it was the second week. See, I'm the one who's confused. So the first week was with John Porter, right, from Smog City, and week 2 is from Cameron. Oh, I know I am confused because week 3, which will be next week, will be Stephanie
Swane. Yes. Okay.
Stay with me, Stephanie
Swane. So last week was Science of Sourdough, applied microbiology for bakers. There we go.
And what's next week going to be, Justin? If you're such a good reader, all of it.
Let's see. This is Modernist. I'm literally looking at the link right now.
Justin.
Fermentation, a look at the world of yeast and beyond. Wow. Right. Who's your copy editor on these clever names? What do you
Stephanie Swane gave me 3 options, and that's what I chose.
I know. Steph is awesome. I cannot wait to hang out with her. She's a walking encyclopedia of pizza knowledge. She knows everybody and everything about it. And it's a real coup if you catch my drift that we're going to be having her here. All right, I'm going to jump off. Guys, today we're going to try something a little bit different as I promote people to panelists. Please, as you're attendants or participants or attendees right now, raise your hand if you'd like to be. We don't have too many people here. We only have 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and that doesn't really matter. I'm going to go ahead and just promote everybody to panelists, and we're going to get this party started. If you guys have some questions, you know the deal. You can raise your hands. You can throw them in the chat. You can hit them in the Q&A. You know how to do it. Noel, I will see you in a Momo Bromo.
Yeah, Justin, I'm glad you're getting off because you're starting to piss me off already. Number one, what do you mean we only have 4? 4 is more than a pizza quorum. I'm going to tell you that right now because really, we got me. We got me twice because I'm also an attendee. We got you. You've got a split personality, so that's like 5 between the 2 of us. Plus, we usually only talk to as many as 4 people, so we've got more than a pizza quorum. Justin, take it back. Take it back. I, Justin Clark Dre, do solemnly swear never again to disparage
the quorum. That is, I mean, it's enough to split a pizza, right? That's enough. Everybody gets a slice, right?
Justin, you got to rethink your.
Everybody.
If I'm not allowed to say hate, you're not allowed to say only. All right.
Okay.
Every time you say only in a sentence, I'm gonna cancel you.
Okay. Hold on. Blue bell in it. Blue bell in it. All right. Everybody's on. Everybody. There we go. Hey, Scott. How's it going? Great to see everybody. All right, Noel, take it away. Take it away. Take it away.
All right, good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. The 4, 5, 6, 7, 16, 60. Doesn't matter how many people are on. This is our quality time. You know, on Sunday I spent some quality time with my mom, and there was only 2 of us. Justin, I know I can use the word only, but you cannot. Justin, mute yourself. I don't want to hear you breathing. All right. You know what I want to. You know what I want to hear you doing? I want to hear you getting your props together.
There we go. I'm clicking. Right? I got to go downstairs to get my props. All right. Enjoy. Unmute myself. Hey, everybody. I don't know where Noel went. He obviously is having a little bit of technical difficulties. Hopefully he'll come back at some point. We're just trying to promote to panelists. All right, so I just got back from Palm Springs. I was doing a pizza party out there. I had a pizza party on Saturday. 16 doughs in the desert. So I did run into a little bit of an issue on my way out there. I'm the host now. Noel's having technical difficulties. So here's the deal. So I had made the dough Tuesday night. I had done my pre-ferment. And then Wednesday, I had mixed the dough. And then Thursday night, the dough was in 2 bulk containers, 2 6-inch Cambros. And my idea was I was going to drive out to the desert. And then I was going to get there, this Palm Springs from LA, 2.5 hours, maybe Thursday night. And then I was just going to ball the dough at that point, put it into the fridge, let it rest in balled up till Saturday when I was going to have a pizza party. However, the issue was that when I was getting to the desert, we got out there, the power was out. So it was kind of crazy. I had very warm dough kicking it. There he is. Sorry, Noel. I had to fill the space. And I took the story. These I can't hear you. Where's your audio?
What do you mean you can't hear me? I was laughing. I was laughing.
There we go. But so my dough was blowing up. There was no power. I'm literally sitting. You are really having some issues tonight. You keep freezing on me, boss. I was really having some issues because there was no power, no refrigeration. So I put the dough in the fridge and I shut the door at 3 a.m. Everything came back online, so that was good. So, but the pizza party was fantastic. Just had to roll with it. I wanted to show you guys my new dough containers. They're pretty big though. I don't know what's going on with Noel. All right, I'm going to remove that spotlight there. All right. Well, slow rise. What are we doing here? Would anyone like to? There he goes again. Yeah, thanks, Dom. I mean, it is. It's the gig. I mean, that's the constant. That's, as far as I know, it's always just about, we always used to say variables in the pizza equation. And I was thinking that because my pizza method is usually when I take my dough out before I ball it. I like to let it sit for like 2 hours before I ball it, and then I do a pre-shape, and then I let it bench for another 30 minutes in my pre-shape. There you go. Hey, baby, what you doing? There you are. Third time's a charm, Laszlo. Don't do anything.
You,
Don't jinx it.
you don't even know what just happened. I didn't know what happened. You froze, and I thought, oh, Justin having a rolling blackout. I went from stand
Oh,
one, but it was me a second time.
oh man, that was the thing. The rolling blackouts, you can't. Those are variables in the pizza equation. So I mean, a lot of time. I mean, my gig is that the dough dictates. The dough is going to do what the dough wants to do. It's got a mind of its own. And I thought, because another thing that I had done, everybody, is I had taken, usually when it's 70 degrees in Venice, I'm usually doing like 0.10, 0.12% IDY in my recipes, depending, especially in the winter. 0.12% usually. But because I knew that I was going down to the desert and it's so dry and hot down there, I did 0.09% yeast. But I tell you, even though they were in these new dough containers that I'm going to get, I picked up at Marshall's. They were still popping out. They were still popping out. So, all right. No, I'm glad to see you. I've been treading water here as much as I can.
I mean, it's a good thing we came up with a plan B because you went right to it.
Yeah, look, I don't know what I was going to do. I start playing, I don't know what, like bring out the Furby, like who
See,
knows?
Justin, here's the thing. You have acting chops for miles. So that means that if everything goes wrong, you can start doing
Mm,
Shakespeare in the Park. Tell me if I'm wrong.
that's right. I could dazzle you with some monologues, if need be. I don't
Well,
know how I'm a little long in the tooth, let's say, but we do what we can. We do what we can. So,
good.
all right. Well, I'm going to bounce off. I'm going to see if Dominic said, "Nice to know he's not the only one with dough issues." So I kind of rolled with it a little bit.
All right,
You
good.
want to take it away, bud?
Yeah. So let's see. Where was I? I don't even know. So I won't start again, but I'll start in the middle. So let's see here. Let's see. So maybe we were talking about science of sourdough. So I was looking right at my phone when things went awry. So here's something interesting. I hope it's something interesting. So I've got Stephanie Swane next week for Science of Sourdough, and I'm excited that she's going to be doing like a history of fermentation for in terms of like bread and pizza, and that's going to include sourdough. It's going to include modern yeast variations, and then maybe going back to sourdough again because there's been a resurgence. I think we all know that. And then what's interesting is that in preparation for some of my research on sourdough recently, I downloaded an awesome book called Sourdough Culture by Eric. I don't know if he has the fancy last name or the straight up found name last name. If he's fancy, then he's Eric Pallant. If he's just like ordinary American, he's Eric Pallant. I think he's kind of ordinary. I mean, he's a really smart guy and he's like got like a big brain, but I think he's Eric Pallant. So that's what I'm going to call him.
Hey,
So
Noel,
I contacted him. Yeah,
can I
what?
just jump on real quick? I'm going to let everybody know. I'm going to put the links, Stephanie's Instagram. I'm going to put
Good.
the link to next week's class, and I'm going to put a little bit about Modernist so you can understand what we're pitching into the chat. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for interrupting me, Justin. That was very, very useful. Very useful indeed. You're muted. You can't come back up after that. Good. I gotcha. Anyway, so Sourdough Culture by Eric Pallant. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. So I reached out to a few people I know to see if anybody knew him, and Peter Reinhardt, of all people, one of my longtime heroes, got back to me and said, yes, I know him. And so he put us in touch. So we started emailing this morning, which I'm really excited about because his book was amazing, really amazing, and it's really about the history and science of sourdough. So I think if he's feeling pizza love in his heart, he'll come in and do a Zoom with us. I downloaded his book on Audible and I listened to it. It was a real page turner, for me at least. So I really I thought I knew something about the history and science of sourdough, but he really hipped me to a lot of ideas. And also, there's been a lot of sourdough science going on of late, but I think people in the pizza space are not exactly at the forefront. So I'm trying to remedy that. not single-handedly, but there's a lot of people who are years, not light years, but years ahead of us in the bread space in terms of science. So I actually reached out to a few pizza people this week that I know who I think should be a little more in the know. I'm not going to name any names right now, but I will. And I got really weird answers, Justin. One of the answers I got from one of my favorite sourdough pizza guys, he said to me, Noel, I've been doing sourdough since 2009. I'm good. I don't need any help. I don't need any science. I've got the feel. And guess what? He doesn't. He doesn't. I've worked with him before. He's an awesome pizza maker. I love his pizza, but I've seen his dough not rise. I mean, I've seen my dough not rise, so I'm not saying anything about him I wouldn't say about me. But if you think you've got sourdough handled, you might be overestimating your knowledge, your ability, your talent. I just want to say that every time I think I've got this, all I have to do is make some sourdough, and I realize I don't got this. So anyway, hate to be long-winded about sourdough, but I'm really enjoying these sourdough sessions. So I'm going to look forward to Stephanie's presentation next week, and hopefully we can get Eric Pallant on. And I've been working with Cameron down in San Diego. He's my staff microbiologist, really, and he's got a bunch of guests that he's inviting as well. So every 2 weeks, we're going to be doing Science of Sourdough, alternating every other 2 weeks with office hours. So these are fun for me. So how about this, Justin? I feel like I've been chatting people up for long enough, and I'm wondering out loud if anybody has raised their virtual hands, and maybe we can bring somebody on, and I can talk to them about whatever it is that is burning a hole in their little pizza brain this week.
Yeah, I got Scott here, and so I'm going to be making sure. Scott, I'm going to bring you on. Yeah. To bring you on.
Sure.
Well, I think I lost. Here we go. Yeah, hold on 1 second, Scott. 1 second. And there we go. So you guys enjoy as I jump off right here.
Hello, Scott. How are you?
Good. Like they say on the radio, long-time listener, first-time caller.
I've been seeing your email a few times.
Yeah. I've been hanging out but it's not really an issue pretty much, but I've just been actually following the Kenji López, I just forgot the whole thing, but the bar pizza,
tavern-style.
Tavern-style pizza, right? So, he developed that recipe over, 2 or 3 months, and he wrote it up and did a long, research about it, and went to Chicago and Milwaukee, and it's been fantastic. I think it's really an amazing style. I like the crispiness of it, but I like the chew part of it. It's sort of the taglio style type of thing in terms of it's obviously thinner, but it has a lot of those components. And one thing I like about it is the ability to freeze the dough. And I don't know if you've had any experience with that. I think that, from a, just be able to pull it out. And then I have some friends that are opening some bars, and I always thought that would be a great thing. Get one of those countertop pizza masters. You can put a couple pies in there, and they're a quick turnover if you have them frozen, or if you have them fresh. But then if you have a big run, or if you make too many, you put them in the freezer, and then you can roll it over. Any thoughts about those, or have you played with it?
No. Yeah. Yes and yes. So I got to slow you down a little bit because you're moving so fast. I'm afraid that there are some people who are either watching live or are going to jump on YouTube and they won't know what we're talking about. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? All right.
All right.
So let me ask you a few questions. First off, for people who don't know, who's Kenji?
Well, Kenji, I live in San Francisco. He used to live down in San Mateo, and then he moved up to Seattle. He's writes for the New York Times. He's got a couple of great cookbooks, and he was with Serious Eats for a long time. And he's an amazing splainer.
He is an amazing
he's
splainer.
A really wonderful guy. Yeah.
Excellent.
And he does a lot of research, and he just makes it. He simplifies it for a lot of people, a lot of different things. I mean, not to say pizza per se, but just anything your heart desires.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So he did a deep dive. I think he spent 2 or 3 weeks, right, in Chicago. 2 or 3 months. Okay. So, but I don't know how long he certainly spent 2 or 3 months writing it and researching it, but I don't know how long he was on the ground in Chicago. Do you?
I was like, yeah, a couple of weeks. Yeah, I mean,
Couple of
probably
weeks.
10
All right,
days,
good.
10 days. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And he visited some of the most iconic pizzerias in Chicago and around Chicago because a lot of those places are in the outskirts. I've been to a bunch of them, right? And I don't know
Right.
how he got people to divulge some of their deepest, darkest pizza secrets, right?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, and the ability to take out, I don't know what you would call it when after you make the dough and you ferment 3 to 5 days and then you take it out and you roll it, use a roller, get 14 inches in diameter, and then you leave it out on the counter for 12 to 18 hours and it gets like a leathery patina.
Yeah. Now, what's the word he uses for that? Because that was something that kind of blew my mind. You remember what he calls it?
I don't remember.
I do. That was a trick question. I'm like a good attorney. He calls it curing the dough, right? It's
That's right.
crazy.
That's right. Yeah.
Can you explain what that means to people who haven't seen the article or maybe you haven't tried tavern-style pizza a la Chicago?
Well, the curing component of it, I mean, it's basically, like I said, it gets like a leathery patina on the top, and you just leave on the counter on some paper, and then I don't know, it's just like a magic. And then when you're ready to bake, you just basically turn it over so down the top is the bottom, and then the bottom is down the top, and it's moist, and it's got all those components to it, and you just basically put it on a pizza steel. You don't usually use flame. And you put it on a pizza steel for 10 minutes, and it's incredible. So he also had the recipe. He made like homemade sausage that was really good. And then the one big component, which is really fantastic, which is common in Chicago style sandwiches as well as the pizza, were the giardiniera that you have in oil. And it's got basically, you use brine mine, for 5 days, and then you drain it and then basically put it in a food processor, get it really fine, and then put oil into it. But when you're using the giardiniera, which is your common celery, carrots, and cauliflower, but I also put I put some serranos in there and garlic and that type of thing. And then when you just put in the food processor, it's fantastic. And then you put the oil in there, and it's just like this incredible flavor bomb.
Yeah.
And you can put it on anything.
You can put it on anything. My father's from Chicago, and people always talked about thin-crust Chicago, but whenever I went to Chicago, we went to the local pizzeria, and it was a big, thick pizza pie, right? So I never had the pleasure, but as a professional, I started hearing about these tavern-style pizzas. So one time when I was there for work, I had one of my cousins pick me up, and we hit like a bunch of places on the outskirts, way out in the burbs or whatever you call those far out places. And I remember looking at the pizza thinking, doesn't seem like anything. And what blew my mind was that the whole was definitely greater than the sum of the parts, right? I mean, the parts aren't
it's also when you eat it, I mean, talking about the parts, it's not your typical triangle slice. It's just so square slices, and they're nice. You can handle them. They hold, toppings really well, but they're incredibly soft. So for being so, they're chewy for being so crisp. It's just amazing.
Yeah. So what do they call that in Chicago when they cut the round pizza into squares?
You got me.
Party cut. That was an easy one.
All right. Well,
all right. Justin.
Speaking of Chicago, I'm out of the loop. Okay, there you go.
That's a good one. All right. So he was -2. That was a good joke. So now you're -1. Excellent.
Right.
You do that one more time, you're even. Justin, help this man out.
It.
I don't think he needs it, but he's good. You're good.
No, it's really interesting. I'm a big fan of Kenji, and Noel and I have spent some time with Adam Kuban doing bar style pizza pies. So that'll be really interesting. Noel, just a real quick, what's this curing process? What do you have any thoughts on?
So, I mean, you know as well as I do that generally speaking, when you're making a pizza dough, there's different stages of fermentation. We usually have a bulk fermentation, a secondary fermentation, but Kenji and these crazy party cut Chicagoans, they leave their dough out to cure on the counter, which basically means dry out, right? And in most cases, if your dough was let's say it was a big thick, you might be able to lay some towels on it and rehydrate it in some cases, or maybe you could even peel off the dry part and use the under part if you're in bulk. But these guys use it as is. They flip it over and they make awesome pizza with it. I don't get it.
So Scott, is it the cured side that then becomes the bottom? crust?
Yeah, it does. And, you use a lot of semolina.
Uh-huh.
So, so there's like that little crunchiness to it as well. That really lends a nice texture to it. And
So are you do you have a sheeter or are you just using a rolling pin?
no, you just use a rolling pin. I mean, basically, he says he try to get it 14 inches. And so I just have some like big 14, 16-inch like Ziploc bags that I've found, and I just put them in there with paper. I just take them from there and put them in there and freeze them if I have to.
Do you cure them then freeze them, or do you roll them, freeze them? Okay, so interesting. So you've got them all cured. You've let them sit out. Now, when you let them sit out, you let them sit out at quote unquote room temp, I'm sure, correct?
Yep. Yeah, well, I'm in San Francisco, so the room temp is sometimes different than other places, but I guess everywhere's different. But we get a lot of sun, so sometimes it gets a little warm. But you can understand, you can see if you haven't done it. Sometimes little bubbles come up. You don't want any bubbles. You don't want anything like that. Right. Sometimes you take your fork and do that type of thing. It's fantastic. I mean, it's really foolproof, and that's basically what I've been looking for.
Yeah,
and in my consumption style. And I think that, like I was talking about, those pizza masters, you can get the 2 or 4, the small countertop ones. And I think if you have a bar and you got that, you got instant, love from all your customers.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got happy hour special all over it, huh? So great. Cool, Scott. Well, thanks for sharing, bud. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for. Hey, come back and see us next week, will you?
I'm not leaving.
There we go. I love it. All right. So I think our friend Steven has some questions. Steven, are you there, bud? I'd like to bring you back on.
I'm here.
There we go. Whoop. Yep. What is going on here? Add spotlight. Oh, yep. There we go. Awesome. Take it away, guys.
Hi, Noel.
Mr. Hincliffe, welcome back.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I've got my notes here from September 4 because I know we had a very long kickoff conversation. So, have you made any progress? Bring us up to date. But start for people who weren't here. What went wrong? And I gave you some homework. And what are you coming back with?
Okay, so to go back, I made pizza over Labor Day, and it basically overproofed. So it was warm. I used 28% sourdough, and I let it bulk ferment for a long time. See if I have my notes here.
I think it was 4 hours.
Yeah, that sounds right. My final dough temp was 85 degrees.
Oh,
was not good. So, but at the end of the day, it was the same recipe I've always used, but those were the factors that led to overproofing.
Let me add one, if I remember correctly. You had a very active, unusually active sourdough starter, correct?
I did. It was 250 grams, so it was 28%.
I mean, it was active. You said it was more active than usual.
Well,
that's what I have in my notes.
Yeah, it was active. I don't know if I would say more active than normal. I tried to use it when it was at its peak.
Good.
Which I did again this week too. So I didn't change anything as far as that. And I think it was equally as active. Basically, it was peaking instead of falling.
Good. So I sent you back to the drawing board. What'd you come up with?
So I went back to the drawing board. I used the exact same recipe, but I lowered the water temp, but not enough because my final dough temp was 80 degrees. But that's
okay.
Better.
Hold on. That's. I mean, you're redlining your dough at 85. I would say 80 is pretty darn good for sourdough. 78 is really the top we want to go with a yeasted dough. I would say 80 to 85 is a good window for sourdough, but any higher than that, especially with the other components, you're really pushing max. So good, 80 is better. I like 80.
Okay, and then I used 90 grams of starter, which I don't know what the math is. 90 divided by 900.
All right, so you're at about 10% starter.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Good.
10%.
That's a little better. That's a little more, especially for the hot summer months, right? I know we're technically in fall, but we're in California.
Right. And what else did I change? So I changed that. I didn't really change the.
You changed a lot. You changed your water temperature, and you got your dough temperature down from 85 to 80, and you changed your levain from close to 28% down to close to 10. Am I wrong?
That's correct. And then the other big thing I did is the bulk was much
shorter.
It was
good.
2 hours instead of 4 hours with
Love
one
it.
stretch and fold instead of two.
Beautiful. And how was the final product, Steve?
The final product was great. It was very easy to work with, no tearing.
No tearing.
It was great. But my question of the day is talking about flours, because it still wasn't my ideal crust, and I've never found my ideal crust. But I know I hear people talk about using lots of different kinds of flours, different proteins, different everything. And I'm wondering if we can talk a little bit about choosing flours. Why would you choose King Arthur bread flour over an all-purpose flour, over a double O flour, et cetera, et cetera?
All right, good. All right, well, let's see here. Let's see. Let's start with why I would choose a flour. Let's talk about the style of pizza first, right? And let's talk about tradition. I would say that traditionally, if I was going to make a wood-fired pizza, right, and I wanted to do it in the Neapolitan way, I might look at a 00 flour, right? Although I know a lot of people from Italy, and some people from Italy would say, actually, my family's been making pizza since before Caputo or anybody else was making 00 flour. And we don't use that, but we do use a very fine flour. Some of the flours that they use in Italy are lower in protein. Or the numbers are different. The way they rate them are different than here in the United States, and France and Germany are also a little bit different. So I think in general they're not fermenting their dough for as long as we are, right? So they don't need as much fermentation tolerance as we do, and so they're able to use a much softer, often finely milled flour, and they get a really nice soft mouthfeel, right? They're not looking historically for a crispy crust like we are.
Right.
There's, again, a little more soft, a little more chewy, a little more supple, right? More of a knife and fork type of affair than walking down the street like John Travolta eating a nice stiff slice. Right. So tradition is one thing. A lot of New Yorkers would say high gluten flour. Some would say more, just strong bread flour. Right. So if I was going to use one of those, I would, if I was going to make a New York style pizza, I would probably go with something with more fermentation tolerance that would handle multi-day cold fermentation. I would think about that. So these are like my performance flours. Right. And then I've been working with chefs for a long time, and chefs use a word like mouthfeel. Right. And that word mouthfeel didn't used to mean anything to me, but now I think I understand it better. And one of the things that I think a lot of like next generation aspiring pizza makers are looking for is whatever the opposite of that chewy thing that American New York pizza can turn into if it's kind of gone awry. And it ends up performing like a bagel, right? You can just chew it and chew it forever, and it feels like it's never going to digest. Right. So something more digestible, something that won't give your jaw any pain. And so you've got your performance flour, right? That's your main flour. And then there's other flours that you can use to kind of dial in some of the nuances, right? So I know that you use central milling type 85 from time to time, right? That's a wonderful flour. It has a beautiful aroma. Right, Nicky Justo makes really nice, beautiful flours, and he's very careful in his sourcing of flours from season to season. I think of those flours, like a central milling flour, as more like a single malt Scotch. They change from year to year, season to season. Whereas, let's take a King Arthur or a Caputo. They're really specs driven, and they want their longtime customers, no matter when they're buying a flour, 1968, 1988. 2028, they want basically the same specs, and so that's more like a blended Scotch, right? That's what I call the performance flour. That's something that you can really depend on. Sarah Minnick at Lovely's 50/50. Yeah, I remember we were talking once at the Pizza Expo, and she would always she used the central milling flour as her like performance flour, and then she used all these local flours for flavor, for color, for aroma, for all kinds of stuff, right? And that's really dangerous to me because although at the time I'm not sure if she's still doing it, she was at the mixing bowl every day. She was super hands-on. And so she's like one of the, most famous, most sought after pizza people in the country, if not the world right now. And so I think her sourcing of flowers speaks for itself, but I'm not sure everybody can handle that, right? So I mean, she's looking for more flavor than most pizza people probably are, and she's willing to go wetter. She's willing to go more whole wheat, right? She's willing to break more rules, I think, to accomplish what she's accomplishing. So one of the things that she has changed, and I'm not sure, I don't remember what she started with, but I think she's running a Pizza Master now, an electric oven. So I feel like her pizza game might be different from yours because you're running a wood-fired oven, right?
Correct.
So I don't know about, like Nancy Silverton probably broke all the Italian rules and cooking pizzas. And like, I remember timing them like 15 years ago, 8.5 minutes in the oven at probably a pretty low temperature. What's the bake time on your pizza?
Bake time is probably maybe 3 minutes, and I'm trying to keep it around 700.
Yeah. So you're using sourdough for flavor, right? You're using a nice long fermentation for flavor. You're mixing generally how many flours?
Generally 2 flours is my kind of foolproof recipe, and I've been using a lot of the Karen Spring flours.
Yeah.
But I've been mixing it with double O. But my issue with my crust last night was the chew. It was too chewy. I kind of want like an eggshell type of a crust.
Yeah.
So I want to find that high performance flour. Now, you weren't saying that a Type 85 would be your high performance. That would be your mix, right?
Yeah, I would say that. When you use that word eggshell, it pushes a button. Now, when I think of eggshell, I think of baguette. And when I think of baguettes, it's not that I think of the recipe or the sourcing, it's really the technique, right? So here's one of the things, like I was down in Orange County last week and I was working with, I thought it was a 35-year-old pizzeria, but it turned out to be a 50-year-old pizzeria. The new owners have been running it for 35 years. And in 3 days, I was able to, I don't want to say upgrade their pizza, but teach them some new techniques. And one of the things that we did was we looked to accomplish what I think I was looking to accomplish when I was learning to make baguettes. And it's the perfect blend of strength and extensibility. Right. And when you do that, when you nail your bulk and your stretch and folds, and then you really nail the surface tension, right, on your dough balling, you get these micro blisters, right? And for me, when I get those micro blisters, I get a really beautiful crispy crust, sometimes eggshell, sometimes not. But I'm more apt to get that eggshell on bread because bread's easier to dial in. Right. And I'll say, here's what I mean. You already know that you're mixing at 6 a.m. and you're going to bake at 11 a.m. And so you got 5 hours of fermentation. You've got like, I don't know, 80% pouliche or 22% sourdough or whatever your pre-ferment is. And you can nail your DDT, the exact time. Pizza's so different because, you're like, all right, I'm having 20 people over on a Saturday. I'm going to make dough on Wednesday. And guess what? Wednesday it rains. And you're like, I'm not making dough. I'm stuck in traffic on the 405. So you make it on Thursday. That throws everything off right there. Right? It's not a 5-hour fermentation. It's a 2.5-day fermentation. So anyway, you just pushed a button with that eggshell thing.
Yeah.
So what I would say is if you want to dial in, what it is that you're doing, I think one of the things, if you're not already doing it, is you got to say, all right, I'm going to do a 36-hour fermentation. I'm going to do a 48-hour fermentation. I'm going to do maybe like Dan Richer, you're going to do maybe even 16 hours, right? And maybe you're not going to refrigerate. So maybe you start with a shorter fermentation, right? And maybe you use your basement, right? You have a basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you do a shorter fermentation and see if you can nail that, and then you move it back and see if you can extend the fermentation and hold, if you nail the crust that you're looking for and the flavor you're looking for and the oven spring that you're looking for and the crumb structure you're looking for and the aromas you're looking for with a short horizon, then you extend it out. That's what I would suggest.
Okay.
Right.
Ready.
And then I think you're somewhere between intermediate and advanced in your experience. Obviously, so anybody who owns a serious wood-fired oven like you do, and makes a lot of pizza like you do, they've moved on from straight doughs. But I gotta say, I don't think it's a terrible thing to go back to pre-ferments that are not sourdough, maybe like a poolish, right? And see if you can get some awesome results with that and get the sourdough out of the equation. And then if you can do like a baguette recipe with poolish, if you could do a straight overnight dough without a pre-ferment, or you can do a pâte fermentée pizza, right? I'm doing that with one of my clients now. Then you dial in the sourdough and see if you can match some of those benchmarks that you're shooting for, right?
Yeah.
That's
Great.
what I would say. I also, when I was looking at the video, the YouTube video, and I was thinking back from 9/4 when you came to me with this laundry list of things that went right and wrong, and I was trying to help you figure it out. One of the things that I thought about that I wanted to bring up that I forgot or didn't get to was this. When I talk to people about doing a desired dough temperature, I tell them we do an average of the air and the flour and the water, right? And then we add the friction factor, and that's what gets us to our final dough temperature based on our desired dough temperature. But one of the things I didn't bring up is that when you have a pre-ferment, if it's 20% or more, you might want to average that in as well, right? And if you were at 28% 2 weeks ago or Labor Day, maybe that warm starter, if it was something that we weren't even looking at. It was another elephant in the room that was dancing on your pizza that you didn't even realize was there.
Well, what I did is I took the starter and I mixed it with the water and then took that temp.
Okay.
So I had that temp, the flour temp, and the room temp was my 3 variables.
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good. All right. Just wanted to bring it up. Sounds like you thought about it, but in a different way. Beautiful. Yeah. All right. That was awesome. Thank you for reporting back. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. Justin.
Yo. That's awesome, Steve. I just, one of the things like that Noel was talking about too is, Noel, talk about a little bit about the bran and germ in some of the different flours. Like the American flour still has that in it. And so that leads to a little bit of extra caramelization, if that's correct. And that's why sometimes if you are using wood-fired ovens, that's why we say use the Italian flours, correct?
Yeah, that's what you brought up. That's a loaded question right there. So I'm just gonna say yup, and if we have time, we'll get back to that. Okay. But that's a loaded question. Thank you for that, Justin.
Good, just stuff to think about. Yeah, so I mean, I use Steve. I'm doing AP flour at 70%, and then I do 20% of the Glacier Peak, and then I do a 10%, which is a Type 65, and then I do 10% of the Trailblazer, which is Type 85, and I'm doing a 40% poolish overnight, 16, 17 hour. So that's usually my standby. Like I'm going to be making pizzas on Saturday, so tomorrow night I'm going to make my poolish.
Cool.
So
what was your? You had 3 flours. What was the first?
So I use King Arthur AP. That's my, because like Noel said, and I'm cooking in. Remember, it's all about that pizza equation. That's why I was trying to tell Noel and he brought it up. Your oven dictates how you cook the pizza. Will then says, well, these are the best ingredients for that end game. Like you said, well, I'm not getting it the way I want it. Like pizza is so subjective. Just like Scotty was saying, I like this Kenji López bar style, right? You're trying to do one of our favorite ways to describe some dough that Dan Richer says. No, we always love this. He would say, like, when you open the dough, your cornichon, you've got this pearlescence. And I just was like, that's like such a good, because I just had some pizzas at this brand new pizza place here in Venice that people are going bonkers about. Really great chef. He's got his flavors down. His dough looks good, but the eat on it is garbage. I'm eating a Neapolitan style, but like Noel said, I'm chewing on bones in the boneyard. It looks like I'm going to have this nice, beautiful, charred, cornicione, but when I get to it, it's like, and nothing against New York's style, but New York style, usually you're kind of arguing with that crust a little bit. And if that's your gig, that's your gig. But that's not what I'm trying to eat, and that's not necessarily what I'm trying to share with people. So cool, man. So keep what does old Chris Bianco say? Keep burning and learning, and we'll catch you on the flip. Okay, Steve.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, bud. All right. So I think, guys, I just want to let everybody know I put in the how to make the real Chicago thin crust pizza at home. The Kenji Lopez YouTube link is in there. And then Dom, you're here, bud. You want to jump on? You want to come down and say hello?
Sure.
There we go.
How's it going?
Good,
Tired
good.
of looking at me yet?
No, come on.
Never.
So
Passionate people.
I finally recovered, and the sourdough that I was able to salvage from the baked starter, I opened it up in the middle and it was still raw, so I took it out and I was able to salvage that. It still works. So my dough is back to normal. It's performing as it was prior to the whole issue that I had. But so Saturday I catered a wedding after party, and I did Detroit styles, thinking that I could kind of like pre-top everything and then just show up, throw them in the oven and bake them off. And the result was good. It wasn't bad, but I did notice that on some of the pizzas, like 35% or so, the bottoms were a little soggier than I had envisioned them being. Yeah. So for the most part, I mean, I knew what I was doing wasn't the ideal way of doing it. I just had to put out 50 in like 2 hours. So I was thinking to myself, like, there's no way that I'm going to show up, top all these doughs and bake them in an oven that quickly. So I did the work ahead of time. And I'm just wondering if maybe I should have par-baked them a little bit longer on some of them, or maybe I put too much oil in the bottom and they sat there for too long. So I'm just thinking ahead, like if I ever do that again, like is there a more foolproof method of moving forward?
Good question. So, it's hard for me to know because I didn't see it, but here's one of the things that I notice. Whenever I pre-top pizzas, I don't put any sauce on, because that's usually the culprit for moisture. The tomato water from that, especially if you're getting in a car and driving around, usually it's that tomato water that makes the bottom soggy. So what I'll try to do is, this would be my go-to. I would do, let's say I was doing mozzarella cheese on the bottom. I would actually slice the mozzarella like they do at a Pizza Shoals, right, in Portland. And I would lay that down first. And then if there were other toppings, right, that I was going to use, onions or mushrooms or whatever they might be, I would lay that down second. And then if there was going to be a sauce, that's what I would lay down at the party.
Yeah.
And so did you transport the pizzas with sauce on them?
Yeah, I did. So, and it was interesting too. I assumed that it was more in the part, because like I said, majority of them came out, they were crispy, they were good. Yeah. I just thought that maybe there were a few that I didn't par bake quite long enough, because when I took them out, I was like, oh, maybe this one could have used another couple of minutes, but I was in a rush, so I was like, it's gonna work. I mean, rave reviews, so nobody else seemed to care. I did.
I get it.
But
I get it.
Yeah, it's I was just thinking ahead, because I do these drops too, where we'll put out like 50 pizzas in 2.5 hours. So I'm thinking ahead, like how can I eliminate majority of the work that I have to do when I get there and make cleanup when I'm on site a lot easier, because that's like having a mobile business. The biggest pain points to me are the breakdown of everything at the end. Like you've made a giant, you've made a giant mess. So, and even this was still a little messy. It's messier than I thought it would be, but it was my first time doing it that way. And I'm thinking maybe I just do like cheese to start, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I would say everything but sauce if you can, and definitely nothing that's going to, add extra moisture to your pie in transit. Let's see here. I mean, it's hard to know. Were you using grated mozzarella?
Yeah. So I use Grande shredded. I get it shredded already just because it's easier.
I get it. Yeah. So definitely don't put the sauce down. And it's tough because I know that you wanna get things moving. I brought him up before, but Lee Hunsinger, Pizza Lee 33 on Instagram, he did this crazy thing where he showed up to a pizza show once, and I think he thought that this was going to be the best. So what he did is he par baked, I don't know, 48 doughs, and he stuck them in a suitcase, cater wrapped, so double wrapped. And he brought these things in, and he set them up, and he baked them off, lickety split, and the texture was insane.
Yeah, well, so I've done that before, and that's how I did it previously. I just wanted to it was an after party, so it didn't start until 11 o'clock, and then it was 2 hours long. And I was just thinking, I'm like, I do not want to clean up like a sauce mess, a cheese mess, and all of this other stuff. So
I get it. Do you have somebody to help you when you're doing all this stuff on site?
It was just me and my wife. Yeah, it was just me and my wife, so it was tough.
There's a lot.
I'm at that phase where I desperately need to hire people, but it's not really an attractive job to most people. So it's I'm hanging on for dear life. But
so let me ask you a question. Let's say you were going to top everything on site. Would you ever measure everything out, weigh everything out ahead of time, so everything's in deli cups or plastic bags or reusable somethings?
Yeah, I mean, so I have everything pretty I know it's roughly 190 grams of cheese. It's 2 3-ounce ladles of sauce. The pepper, I haven't counted exactly how many pepperonis I use when I do that, but it's I put the ricotta in a piping bag, so I know it's 12 dots of that. So I have everything pretty much squared away from I know exactly how much to bring or what it's going to take to hit the numbers that I need. But
it sounds like you're doing and I mean this in the best way, a boutique product. And so here's what I notice about small batch producers. They all do it in a way that minimizes any kind of cost cutting or any kind of labor cutting techniques that they need to do, and produces the highest quality product that they can stomach without sacrificing quality too much. When I say boutique product, it's something that you have imagined, and some way, somehow, you're pulling it off in public, right? But scalability is a whole nother thing as you're learning, right?
Yeah, well, I think I have it down where if I just had people, and it's ironic too. So before I did all this, I was a recruiter, right? So hiring is what I did for 10 years, but it's just a totally different beast. But I think everything that I have now, it's pretty replicable. Where if I had people that could help me consistently, I could get out there, 4 or 5 times a week instead of 2 to 3. So, it's for me, it's just trying to be able to sell more pizza. Essentially,
maybe you need to start training someone.
Yeah, well, I have my cousin's daughter.
Not your wife. Not your wife.
She's not. No, it's tough. We have a 10-month-old, and she has a full-time job. So we're
10-month-old already has a full-time job. That's amazing.
No, my wife. My wife.
Sorry, I went for that. Justin, I committed. Don't you think that was good? You impressed? I committed. Justin's teaching me to commit.
I liked it for sure.
I'm sorry. I just saw a 14-month-old playing a sonata on YouTube yesterday. So if a 14-month-old can play a sonata, your 10-month-old can have a full-time job, I suppose. Jesus, kids are crazy these days.
Kids these days, they're not even kids. Let's just be honest. So,
all right. Well, thank you, Dominic, for coming back. I appreciate your commitment. You're here every week, rain or sun, sourdough or office hours. So thank you.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Awesome. Yeah, great to see you. Hey, and if everybody's on here, don't be afraid to put your Instagram, guys, in the chat so we can see your pizza, and we can, Dom, I'd love to know your, what the name of the company that you're working with, or Scott, if you've got some of those, or Steve, if you guys have some photos of some of the stuff that you've been working on, we'd love to. Noel and I we'd love to see that stuff. So I just wanted to show real quick because I was getting some things in the chat. Thanks so much, Dom. We'll check in with you soon. Okay, bud?
Thank you.
All right, buddy. I just want to know this is what I'm currently working with right now, so you guys can see. This is my pizza. Here's my floating head, so you can see. Well, let's see if I can do this right. Hold on. So look here. So this is what I'm using. There we go. So my flour is at 100. I'm using 68% water. So sucanat is just a fancy.
You're fancy, all right, Justin.
My floating pizza head guy, right? You guys can see. So yeah, I'm using 4.5% olive oil. When I told Noel that I was doing that, he goes, "Wow, that's a lot of olive oil." But what's great about it, when I'm cooking at 550, and then you can see, this is what I wanted to show you guys, the breakdown of what I'm using. So my AP is my performance. That's my consistency. And Steve, what Noel and I talked about, when we talk about mouthfeel, why I like the AP better than the bread or all trumps. Once again, I like New York style pizza, but that's not going to be my druthers. You know what I mean? I want something that's a little bit more, I mean, we've kind of coined it as the artisanal. So I like the undercarriage of a New York style, but I like the cornicione of like a Neapolitan style. I want to be able to pick it out. I don't want to knife and fork it. So I'm using AP. AP works better because I know I'm cooking in a home oven at 525, 550 on a baking steel for anywhere between 7 to almost 9 minutes sometimes, depending. So once again, those are the variables in the pizza equation. And I like the AP because not only do American flours have some of the bran and germ still in them, so I'm getting a little extra color there, right? But it's not as chewy as the King Arthur bread flour, right? So I'm not going to be arguing with my crust, basically. I don't want to argue with my cornichon. Right. So, and that's one thing that I felt like happened the other day at this new pizza place that everybody's going gaga for. By the time I got to this beautiful looking cornicione, I had to argue with it, and I don't want to do that, So, guys, I'm happy to share. I will always share all my recipes. But so sucanat, that's some fancy stuff that Noel turned me on to. What is it? It's like
it's like sugar. It's like sugar.
It's basically it's hippie sugar, right?
Healthy sugar, sure.
Olive oil, 4.5% salt. I used to go a lot higher on the salt content, but Noel and I decided down is better. Dan Ricker is like 1.8 is the magic, or even lower. I mean, he's like 2% is his magic number. So I try to go under because I'm going to salt it anyway. I'm going to put flake salt on the top anyway. And then, like I was saying, because I was going out to the desert, it's going to be hot. It's going to be dry. The dough's going to be ready to party. So I topped out at 0.9%. So yeah, I just take this and then I can, let me just do and so y'all can see really quick. If and you don't,
Justin, I want to save a few minutes for Daniel Rodriguez to come on too.
Oh, okay. Right. Here, let me just show. Can I show real quick this one? If it's going to work. It's not going to work. Sorry, guys. But I do a 40% poolish with that too. So, Daniel, if you're there, I'm going to bring you on, buddy. Can I bring you on? Great.
Good. Justin, thank you for putting your recipe in the chat. I also put a couple of links to Kenji López-Alt's tavern-style pizza. One's to the dough recipe via the New York Times, and the other one is his giardiniera pizza. So for those of you who are streaming live, you can pull that out of the chat. For those of you who are going to watch on YouTube, I'll put it in the description below. All right, Daniel, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you for showing up again.
Yeah, made it. So
you and I were chatting recently, and I said if we have any time, maybe some of the questions you were asking me, you could actually ask me on this forum, so people could get the benefit of your experience and your learning curve and your knowledge at home.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like
what were we chatting about?
We were starting to talk about like starting to make the switch from commercial yeast to sourdough starter, and I'm pretty scared of making the commitment, but I feel like
as you should be.
But I feel like I feel like I'm ready to start trying it a little bit, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I know you were telling me some like tips about like the 10%. to start off as like a kind of like 0.1% instant
Sure.
dry, and I was just
Sure.
like wondering if maybe you could like kind of elaborate on how that's like a similar process.
All right. So let's do a little bit of elaboration. So you have a pizzeria in Boston,
Yeah.
and you're using a Pizza Master oven. You're running it in the high 500s, low 600s, right?
Yep.
You're doing a 16-inch pizza that you're baking on the hearth, right? Kind of New York style, if I had to say.
Yeah.
Good. And these days you're using a poolish at about, what is it, 20% of flour weight?
Correct. Yep.
And you're always looking for more flavor. You're one of those guys like me. You like crumb structure from the cornicione all the way to the tip of the pizza, right? Just air and dough and flavor and aroma and gases and just like delicious crunchiness, right?
Yeah. Structure is very key.
Very key. All right, so we talked about poolish. We talked about going up to 30%. We talked about that, right?
Yep.
And then we talked about, different percentages of sourdough, right? We definitely talked about that. And so some of the things we talked about were making bread with sourdough, right? And I was saying that when I started making bread, we were using a steam oven and we were making these boules with 40% levain, right? It wasn't like pizza. I think total fermentation time was only about 6 hours, right? And we were using like a 16-hour poolish. And I didn't mention it before, but we were using a mix of flours. We were using, I think, a King Arthur bread flour. We were using whole wheat, 100% whole wheat flour, and we were using a decent amount of rye as well. And I gotta say, like that bread for me was some of the best I've ever had, and I was making it. I couldn't believe it under the expert tutelage of my instructors at French Culinary Institute, which I don't even know what they're calling anymore. They changed it when France became a bad word, for like a minute back in the day. But anyway, no politics in pizza, right, Justin? So anyway, what we were talking about was like there's a range, right, from 40% for like same day or next day down to 1%, right? And 1% of flour weight would be like a 2-day room temperature rise, right? And I talked about maybe 2% levain being a 24-hour room temperature rise. And then I talked about something like 4 or 5% would be like an overnight rise at a mid temperature, right? Maybe in the low to mid 50s, right?
Yep.
And then I was saying, there's people that I know that are like in the 10 to 20% when they refrigerate. So I think that you need to, like I was talking with Stephen Hincliffe about, I think that you need to start and just do bread. Do bread in the oven, do bread in a pan, right? Just do bread and just use like the minimal. Like I like to hit it with a little bit of olive oil and some Maldon salt just to taste the dough. And when you get the flavor profile, when you get the caramelization, when you get the crust and the crumb structure you're looking for, then you can start to change the fermentation schedule. You can mesh with the amount of levain. We didn't even talk about stiff or highly hydrated. I think I've gone up to 120% or 110% hydration on my levains, and so you get different qualities from those. So have you been? I can't remember. Have you been to any of my Science of Sourdough Zooms yet?
Yeah, I went to the first one, and I got to watch the second one on YouTube. Still, I didn't get to go to the second one.
Go to the second one. Really the first one with John Porter and Cameron Martino, that was a primer for the second one. So I'm really happy with the way the second one came out because we tried to do a lot and I feel like we accomplished it. So I mean, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Next week will be a disaster, I'm sure, because of me. I keep dropping my internet connection, but all right, so let's see. So I feel like so you've got a busy pizzeria, right? How many pizzas would you say you're doing a week?
Probably like, I mean, we're open 5 days and we do like 800 pizzas.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
What's your busiest day?
Friday for sure.
Friday. And are you open for lunch or are you open just for dinner?
We do lunch and dinner 5 days. It's like we're open from 12 to 8.
12 to 8. And then we were also talking about the fact that you're currently buying your bread. It's a really nice artisan bread that you're serving sandwiches with. But I suggested that maybe you can use this sourdough project as an excuse to maybe make your own bread. How many bread rolls are you ordering a day?
Oh, I probably like 24.
All right. I think that's manageable, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I can certainly try. I just, I definitely want to get it pretty good before I just like throw it out there.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do sourdough. I'm a big fan of using a levain and also a pouliche, right? And we talked a little bit about Chad Roberts and his crazy double pouliche levain baguette, right? I don't think that's absolutely necessary. That's more for like the competitive baker that's taking his, baguette on the road and, going against the French and the Japanese and everybody else. So you're just a little guy in Boston trying to make awesome bread and pizza, right? So you
Yeah.
don't have to go too crazy. But I do like a little bit of yeast in my dough, and I prefer the pouliche method with the levain as opposed to spiking your dough with instant dry or fresh. Myself personally, I love what the pouliche does to it in terms of texture and just like beautiful, bubbly, yeasty dough, but in small amounts.
Yeah,
But
no, I already started that new sourdough that you said I should start. I mixed the flour and water today. We'll see what it looks like tomorrow.
yeah, so I've been learning a lot from Science of Sourdough. One of the things that we were talking about was using, special flours, because so much of what ends up in your sourdough are the microbes that sneak in on the milled flour that were originally on the wheat. And it might have been the bugs that were at the farm where the wheat was being grown. It might have been the pests that were in the mill where the flour was being milled. There's a lot of potential for microbes. So anyway, I was just encouraging you to not use any industrial flour and try to use, local, anti-industrial type flour, and hopefully there would be more living microbes in something like that. Maybe not. It's a little bit of a microscopic crapshoot, as I'm learning.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm giving it a shot. Hopefully,
good,
hopefully it
good.
comes out nice.
Well, hopefully you'll come back in 2 weeks, and if you have time to attend our live Zoom in a week with Stephanie Swane, that would be awesome too. But definitely check out the one on YouTube. Justin, you're back.
I am. I'm coming back. I'm trying to wrap this up.
Rumor has it you have a hot date tonight. True or not true?
This is true. This is true. No.
Does your wife know?
No, she's coming. She really wants. She didn't get a chance
She's
to see
coming
my
on
buddy.
your hot date. That's hot.
Yeah, it's very. We're very. Progressive.
I like that.
In the Dre household. Awesome, Daniel. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Like I said, Danny, if you want to throw your link in the webinar chat so we can take a look at your shop, we'd love to see what you're working on. Okay. Yeah. Cool, man. Awesome. Thanks so much, brother. Well, Noel, all these little hiccups tonight, I still think that this is really awesome. I mean, I don't know. I love sitting here hanging out with passionate pizza people and just talking about the process, picking apart the process.
Justin, I know that I've got you, and I know you always have a plan B. So, I mean, what could go wrong if I disappear for a minute or two?
I'll just do the dance, I suppose.
Do the dance.
You want to say bye to these lovely people, and then I'll maybe just take us home.
Good. So thank you to everybody who joined us. I know we had a bunch of people jumping on late, so thank you for just showing up. Period. I know that everybody has busy lives, and some of you have pizzerias, and some of you have pop-ups, and some of you are just kind of lurking and thinking about making pizzas. So whatever level you're at, you're absolutely welcome to come. So we appreciate you. And Justin, I will let you take us out from here.
Yeah, thanks so much for hanging out with us, guys. We love spending this QT with you. More questions about pizza, probably in my if my thinking is correct, that means probably more pizza parties in everyone's future, which means bringing people together over pizza, which we love. So thanks so much for hanging out with us, Noel. As always, thank you to all our friends out there. We will see you next week with Stephanie Swane of Modernist. I'm really excited about that. Are the other office hours on YouTube yet, or what? Okay, so great. So yeah, guys, go ahead and check Noel's YouTube. There are a bunch of links in the chat. Check them out right now or forever hold. If you want to hit me up, I'm more than happy to share my pizza recipe with anybody. You know the dealio. You burn, you learn. We don't get into the politics of pepperoni and pineapple. Forever and ever and ever, we say pizza always, and always pizza. Pieces and slices, everybody, with love.